Which players should you buy low on in Dynasty? We're talking about that in today's video. Real quick, before we get into this, I want to thank everyone who helped us get to 1,000 subscribers, whether you've been here, since the beginning or you're new. I appreciate it. We hit 1,000, and we don't want to stop there. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, which a lot of you who do watch this aren't, make sure to hit that subscribe button for us. Hit the like button. Join our Discord. The link is in the description of the video. So get in there. We'll put together some listener leagues. We'll do some Dynasty startups if we get enough people. Rookie mock drafts. I want to get you guys in on those during the live shows, when Sleeper adds rookies to their database. And also leave a comment on this video just about your overall thoughts. In the last video, we had some really, really good comments, some really good conversation. I enjoy it a lot when I get back and forth. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I don't really mind, as long as it's respectful. And I enjoy the back and forth. That's why I started making this content. Just because I'm sitting here in front of a mic doesn't mean, I know better than you. You guys are really smart too, and I learn from you guys. And that's kind of the point of making content. And the point of this channel is not to tell you to listen to me, I'm better than you. Is more just to kind of get you thinking about maybe different perspectives and different thoughts, different strategies when it comes to Dynasty. So appreciate everyone, and I appreciate all the support, and I appreciate the continued support as well. But let's get into some buy lows here. First up I have is Dak Prescott. He's all the way down as according to Keep Trade Cut, the QB 24. Now this plays a little bit into this whole idea of, I think there's a little bit of an oversaturation of the market when it comes to quarterbacks. We have a lot of, obviously we have the top tier guys in Lamar and Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels and things like that. But then we have a big group of guys who, to me, there's not a whole lot of difference between like QB 11 to QB 24. You can argue who you like more and all of that's fine. But like a guy like Dak Prescott versus a guy like Jordan Love, who we talked about in the Sell High video, is the QB 11. Dak's the QB 24. Would I be surprised over the next 2 or 3 seasons that Dak outproduces Jordan Love in fantasy? No. Talk about what you want with him being choking in the playoffs, the Cowboys quarterback, whatever. With fantasy production, Dak is about as consistent as they come since entering the league. Since 2016, when he took over for Tony Romo, he was the QB 6 in total points, QB 9 in points per game. Then going in order year by year: QB 10, QB 14, QB 10, QB 13. That's QB 13 in points per game. In 2019, he was the QB 2 total points, QB 3 in points per game. 2020, he got hurt, but he was lighting it up. He was the QB 1 in those 5 games that he played. 2021, QB 7 and QB 9 in points per game. 2022, QB 18, QB 9 in points per game. He missed some time then. Last year, we know he was a top 5 quarterback. Now, he did have a down year this year. He was the QB 22 in points per game, and I get that, but I still believe that Dak is a good quarterback. I know he's a little bit older. He's going to be, I believe, 32 entering the 2025 season. Would we be shocked if Dak Prescott's still a top 12, a low-end QB1 for the next 3 years? I wouldn't. And he's all the way down at QB 24. And again, just that whole huge tier. Just pull up Keep Trade Cut and look at these guys in this list. It's Purdy, Jordan Love, Penix, Goff, Lawrence, Bryce Young, McCarthy, Tua, Darnold, guys like that, where would I be shocked if Dak's better than all those guys? I wouldn't. So I will happily tear down from those guys, pick up extra pieces and grab Dak as my QB2. And there's a chance that I'm just, I have a low-end QB1 who's better than the guy I just traded away, even though I got more in return. So that's kind of the approach with Dak. I do think he's a little bit underrated. I don't think the injury is going to keep him out too long. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. And again, like Kirk Cousins just got, what was his contract that he just got with the Falcons? Kirk Cousins got a 4-year, $180 million contract at the age of 35, coming off an Achilles injury. Dak's 32. Like the end is not near for Dak, I don't think. So he's a guy that I want to buy low on and tear down from one of these top guys if I can get a lot of return for trading a guy like a Purdy or a Jordan Love. Tony Pollard is next up here. Tony Pollard had a pretty good year this year. You know what's funny about Tony Pollard is like his last 3 years in terms of just raw production have basically been the same. We all kind of fell in love with Tony Pollard in 2022 when he was still splitting time with Zeke. You know, he had less than 200. He had 232 touches that year, and was like, well, I think he was the top 12 running back in 2022. In terms of his raw numbers, you know, total yards in 2022, 1378. In 2023, 1316. He was a big disappointment that year. And last year, 1317 in 16 games. The catches, 39, 55, and 41 the last 3 years. The big thing is the touchdowns. He scored 12 in 2022. He has 11 in the last 2 seasons combined. He was pretty good this year, Tony Pollard. You see the numbers there. He was an RB2. And he's down in keep trade cut RB28. You know, I don't want to, I really don't want to, I don't like buying veteran running backs in January in the offseason in general, except as we get closer to the season. I just want to minimize the risk injury and other things, especially this year with this this rookie running back draft class coming in. Is supposed to be really, really good, kind of reset the whole, kind of replenish the running back field in the NFL. But I feel fairly confident that the Titans are not going to take a running back because they have Pollard, who they paid a good amount of money to, and they still have Tajay Spears, who I think will still be involved. So, like, I don't really see, unless there's just an incredible value for the Vikings, or sorry, for the Titans, you know, maybe they take a running back, but I don't really see them going after that. They have a lot of other holes to fill, including quarterback at the top of the draft. And that's another thing. They are probably going to take a quarterback. Maybe it's Cam Ward. Maybe it's Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. Probably Cam Ward. That's the early thoughts. And the offense just could be better, right? They just could be on a better offense. So Tony Pollard was good. He got hurt near the end of the year, and that really kind of put a little bit of a sour taste in our mouths because the last few weeks, you know, for fantasy playoffs, he was not good. He was not good. He had, 45 yards rushing in week 1 of the playoffs, 35 yards rushing in week 2 of the playoffs, missed the championship game. So he didn't really help you win. But I still think Tony Pollard's going to be a solid RB2. And I think he still has like top 15 upside if the season just kind of falls into place for him. So he's a guy that I potentially want to buy low on. I also think when rookies get added into the database, he's going to drop. He's going to get closer to the mid 30s in terms of his keep trade cut rankings. Another guy is a lower end guy here. This is not someone I'm spending, I'm trading big draft capital for or anything. This is a guy that I want to get in as kind of a throw in if I can. If I'm making a trade with someone and I want to get, just that little extra to kind of push the deal over, Jalen Wright's someone that I feel like I want to be targeting. He did nothing this year. He did absolutely nothing this year. So, there's a good chance you do get him as a throw in. He's a 4th round pick. Pretty high, mid 4th round pick, I believe. I liked him coming out of college, kind of all the analytical stuff and the speed. Of course, he kind of fits that Miami speed. I think Raheem Mostert's basically done. Like, he was there most of the year, and they just didn't really use him. I know he missed some time, Raheem Mostert. I think 4 or 5 games, but they didn't use him even in the games he was healthy. He had 85 carries this year, Raheem Mostert. So, like, they moved on for him. It was kind of all Achane. I don't think that's just not the history of McDaniel and the Dolphins. I don't think they just want it all to be Achane. And also their run game was not very good last year. I know Achane was good, but that was because of his work as a receiver, not so much because of his rushing. Do they try and get Jalen Wright a little bit more involved, get back to that 1-2 punch like they like to do? They like to do that. McDaniel comes from, the Kyle Shanahan tree, and Shanahan before CMC was kind of used multiple running backs as well. So he's a guy that I kind of sneaky want to buy if I can get as like a throw in or, very late round pick, because I see the potential for him being like a significant part of Miami's offense next year. And being just like a solid player that I think can return value. And if he doesn't, and again, he's also going to fall just because rookies are going to get added in. So he's going to get closer to, he's RB 41 according to Keep Trade Cut. He's probably going to get closer to 50, just because of all the running backs coming in. So like, even if he doesn't work out it's not going to kill you. This is not a trade that you're making, where if he doesn't work out, it's going to kill your team. It's like a really kind of high risk, low risk, high reward type of move that I want to make here is with Jalen Wright. Into some receivers here. DJ Moore. DJ Moore is finishes the wide receiver 16 in total points. This is all half PPR stuff, by the way. Finishes the wide receiver 16 in total points, the wide receiver 32 in points per game. So a lot less, a lot worse in points per game than his total point finish, because I don't think he missed the game. He's keep trade cuts wide receiver 27. And again, he's probably also going to fall a little bit. Maybe he rises a bit. I don't know, but I think he will fall at least from now until the end of until the draft, probably. They committed to DJ Moore. They gave him a good contract, and things didn't work out in Chicago. We had high expectations, and I think whenever you have high expectations and they don't work out, we always kind of we drop people down even a little bit more than maybe we should, just because of the expectations that we had. If we had low expectations and they don't do as well, or they do really good, we bump them up maybe too high. And if they have high expectations and they do poorly, we kind of bring them down maybe a little bit lower than we should. That's just the nature of humans, I think. DJ Moore, to me, reminds me a lot of when I was telling people to buy Terry McLaurin last year. And Terry McLaurin, I think, got down to like the wide receiver 40 at some point in the offseason. I could be a little wrong there, but he was pretty low, Terry McLaurin. And I was kind of telling people, like, look, if Jaden Daniels hits, Terry McLaurin is going to be the person who benefits the most from that, right? I kind of feel that way about DJ Moore. Like, if Caleb Williams, who I still believe in, I think we saw the arm talent. We saw the raw talent for Caleb. Maybe some of the other stuff, holding the ball too long, taking sacks, he needs to work on. I think those things are fixable. The other stuff, though, which usually you can't coach, just the pure arm talent the guy has and playmaking ability, I still believe that he has it. And that's why I'm buying into DJ Moore. And I just think if you're buying DJ Moore as like close to the wide receiver 30, you're kind of getting his floor. And I always want to buy people where I think I'm buying them at their floor, who have major upside. I would not be shocked if DJ Moore is the top 15, top 12 receiver this year, this coming year, just like Terry McLaurin was. And a lot of people would have called you crazy if you said Terry McLaurin's going to be, I think McLaurin, actually, we're going to talk about him next, was like top 6. I can see DJ Moore doing that. He's a big buy low for me. I still think, I know he's a little bit older, but we do put a little bit too much stock in age sometimes, which I'll get to we're talking about Terry McLaurin. DJ Moore, they still paid. He's still, not even 28 years old. He's going into his 28-year-old season in 2025. To me, I'm buying low on DJ Moore if I can get him close to a wide receiver 30 value. Terry McLaurin, speaking of, has risen. I think, again, I'm going to double check this actually. He's wide receiver 28, according to Keep Trade Cut. In the off season, let's see here, 2024. Let's just look at May. In middle of May in 2024, he's the wide receiver 39. The beginning of the year, after his first 2 weeks, he was the wide receiver 47. And now he's up to the wide receiver 28. I still think that's kind of low for Terry McLaurin. We're talking about a guy who was wide receiver 6 in total points, wide receiver 15 in points per game. If you take away those first 2 weeks, because he was really bad those first 2 weeks, Terry McLaurin, and maybe we could chalk that up to rookie quarterback figuring things out and who's, figuring out, hey, I need to throw the ball to Terry freaking McLaurin. If we chalk it up to that, and which is, I think, is fair to do, from week 3 onwards, which we're only removing 2 games, from week 3 on, Terry McLaurin was the wide receiver 4 in total points, wide receiver 7 in points per game. He averaged more points than Brian Thomas, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, CD Lamb, Nico Collins. Like, Terry McLaurin was awesome, was amazing. Now, I know it was a little bit touchdown heavy. I think he had 12 touchdowns, which, can we bank on touchdowns year in and year out? No, but I feel fairly confident that Jaden Daniels is probably going to get better in year 2. There's a chance he doesn't, but he's probably going to get better in year 2. And I could see, McLaurin kind of having a floor of like 8 touchdowns. And again, I think we're factoring in age a little bit too much. If he was a couple years younger, I think McLaurin's easily in the top 20, maybe even closer to the top 15 coming off of this type of season. But the fact is he's 29 years old already. And what I want to say about age, and usually this is more when talking about running backs, but there are receivers that fall into this range. I will take 1 year as a top 10 wide receiver versus 3 years of a top, wide receiver 24. Give me 1 year of wide receiver 10 value versus 3 years of a guy finishing, wide receiver 25, 24, those 3 years. And the biggest reason is it's obviously a lot harder to find guys who can finish wide receiver 10. There's a lot more guys finishing, top 24, 14 more if you do the math there. So I kind of feel that way with McLaurin. I do think the Commanders are going to bring in another receiver, which is actually probably going to drop him even lower. And I don't think that's going to scare me off too much from McLaurin, especially if it's a rookie. I think that connection he has, we could just be seeing some late, we finally got the quarterback for Terry McLaurin. We knew he was capable of this, and now we're seeing it. So I still think we're going to see that for a couple more years with Jaden. Assuming, I'm pretty sure he's under contract. I probably should have checked that. I'll check it real quick here. He signed a 3-year. He has 1 more year with them. They could get off of him. They could move off of him if they wanted to. I don't really see why they would, especially, coming off the season that he just had, and they have a rookie quarterback. So, yeah, he still has at least 1 more year, connected to Jaden Daniels. So, buy low on Terry McLaurin, especially if he's going to continue to fall. I think we're putting a little bit too much stock into age here. One more receiver here is Tyreek Hill. I know Tyreek Hill, he lost people fantasy seasons, right? Like whether you drafted him in redraft, in redraft, he could have been the number 1 overall pick. He was definitely a top 3 pick. I think it was, what was it? McCaffrey, Lamb, and Tyreek were like the top 3 picks. And Tyreek Hill lost you seasons, and that's going to stick on to people's minds. And I get it. But I'm willing to take a shot on Tyreek because he's really, really cheap now as the wide receiver 34. And I also think, considering his age, that is going to continue to drop. He is going to be 31 this coming year. So I'm willing to take a shot, especially if he continues to drop on Tyreek Hill. And the biggest reason is we're talking about a guy who was the wide receiver 8 heading into this year, and he fell to the wide receiver 34. What do you think Tyreek Hill's value is going to be if he comes out week 1 with Tua? And it sounds like he kind of worked things over, like things are okay in Miami now, and who knows, like that could definitely change. But I'm not even particularly worried, depending on what team he could still go to a good team and be productive. Like I don't think it's Miami that's making Tyreek Hill necessarily a good receiver. But what happens if he comes out with Tua week 1 or whatever quarterback, and he has a Tyreek Hill game? He gives you, 8 for 150 and 2 touchdowns. What do you think is going to happen to his value? It's going to skyrocket. It's going to be Tyreek Hill is back. This is the old Tyreek Hill. He's healthy, all that stuff, especially if he's doing it with Miami. His value is going to skyrocket. So sometimes we buy low on people. It's not necessarily just because, I want to buy low and start this guy all of next year. It could be guys you buy low on that you can see their value doubling, their stock value increasing by a wide margin. Like it's kind of like the stocks that you buy if you do stock trading and you trade stocks and stuff. You buy low on a stock, and as soon as it doubles in price, you sell it. Right, because you just doubled your income, right? You doubled your investment. Same thing could be with Tyreek Hill here. He comes out week 1, has a big game. He goes from wide receiver 34 to easily like a top 20 wide receiver, and you can just sell him right then and there, whether you believe in him or not, and that's a win. Right, that's a win right away. So that's kind of my thought process with Tyreek. By the way, if you look at the games where he played with Tua, a healthy Tua, when Tua played and completed the game, Tyreek Hill was still averaging like 13 point something points per game in half PPR. I want to say he was still like a top 15, 16 wide receiver in the games with Tua. It didn't seem like it because we didn't have the boom games, but he was still like wide receiver 15 or 16 in points per game. He wasn't horrendous. So Tyreek Hill, I am buying low on here. And then the last one here is the tight end. It's Dallas Goedert. I'm always buying low on Dallas Goedert. I don't completely understand the Dallas Goedert rankings. Now, generally with tight ends, I don't really value them that much unless there's a huge tight end premium, because outside of like, the top guys, Kelsey for all those years, now it's Bowers and McBride. Outside of really Bowers and McBride, like the tight end is not mattering that much. Tight end 5 to tight end 15 or whatever it is, like when you look at the points per game from like maybe it's closer to like tight end 7 to like 15, there's not a whole lot of difference. And a lot of times it's really hard to predict the tight ends that are going to be in the top 5. Like who predicted Jonnu Smith to be a top 5 tight end this year? No one. So generally in tight ends, like I'm always going to sell high on them because I can usually find a tight end that's going to give me 70% of the value of the guy that I'm selling. And I get, people overvalue tight end, so I get significant return for those guys. I am 100% happy with like basically any tight end that's ranked according to Keep Trade Cut, like tight end 6 and lower. That's Dalton Kincaid, Tucker Kraft, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, David Njoku, maybe not Mark Andrews, but Kyle Pitts and Njoku, Kate Otten, Isaiah Likely. These are tight ends 6 through 12. I will tear off of those guys. You give me Dallas Goedert and other assets, I will happily do that. I don't think people realize Dallas Goedert was the tight end 11 in points per game. Now I know a little bit of an issue with him has been health. He hasn't been healthy as of late, which can be a concern. But again, it's tight end. You can find replacements. He was still tight end 11 in points per game. By the way, that includes a goose egg game where he literally played like 5% of the snaps and left. I think he had one target and then he left. If you take that goose egg out for Dallas Goedert, he averaged more points than these players, the following players. He averaged more points than Sam Laporta, Zach Ertz, Tucker Kraft, Pat Fryermuth, Kate Otten, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry. He was tied with Travis Kelsey in points per game. And I think he was less than half a point behind guys like Mark Andrews and potentially Jonnu Smith. Maybe not Jonnu Smith, but Mark Andrews, I believe. Like he was still really good this year. A little bit, it's a little bit top heavy. Like he had one big game, 10 for 170. That obviously inflates. But you kind of look at his game log, he's kind of giving you what most tight ends give you. 4 for 47 and a touchdown. That was the playoff game. 4 for 55. 3 for 35 and a touchdown. 4 for 19. Okay, you're going to get those. 5 for 61. 2 for 25 and a touchdown. 7 for 62. 3 for 38. 4 for 31. Like, not great, but that's kind of what most tight ends are going to give you on a. So I never understand Dallas Goedert and why he's ranked so low. Like the guy's literally in points per game, a top 12 tight end year in and year out since Zach Ertz left. I know he's 30 years old, but like we just saw George Kittle. I'm not comparing Goddard and Kittle. Like obviously Kittle's better, but Kittle is, over 31 years old, right? Like he's still producing. Kelsey at age 35 or whatever Kelsey is still producing, right? So I think tight ends can go a little bit longer than the average player. Mark Andrews is 29 and a half, still producing. So those are my buy lows. I will be making these videos throughout the off season. I'll be making these videos. So appreciate everyone. Again, leave a comment on your thoughts. We'll have some back and forth, which I enjoy. Join the Discord, link in the description, and of course, subscribe to the channel and like this video. Appreciate everyone very, very much. And we'll catch you guys all very, very soon.